Sometimes it could feel daunting to kind of decipher one of Guthrie Trapp's lessons, but it shouldn't be. Because when you watch them and distill everything down, there is a common denominator in a lot of his lessons, and they all make sense. That common denominator consists of a few core concepts. I mean, the first one would be cage. You have to have a good understanding of the cage system. The next one would be understanding your arpeggios, and then your triads, then the minor and major pentatonic scales, and then the minor and major scales in general. Pretty sure a lot of you already know a lot of that stuff, and if you do, half the battle is done. It's just a matter of connecting the dots, which is what Guthrie, I feel, is trying to help everybody do. So we're going to take all those concepts that I just discussed here and go off of one of Guthrie's videos again and kind of distill that down and learn how to target certain chord tones. So again, we're in standard tuning, so grab your guitar. My name is Keith. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so welcome back. So what I explained there in the intro was the fact that a lot of Guthrie Trapp's lessons, they don't have to be complicated. I know he moves really quick and a lot of that stuff is hard to kind of figure out what he's doing. So the purpose of this is to distill that down. And if you dive a little deeper and look at the broad strokes, they're all there kind of as a constant in his videos. You have to understand the 1, 3, and 5 of all these different chords. And he uses that for his solos and to target different chord tones and all that. So this is going to be probably the last time I'm going to reference this video in particular because we've got to move on at some point. But the reason I did want to stick on it because that little 20-minute video that he had there was just chock full of a bunch of great stuff that's worth diving into. But let's just go ahead and give it one last look. Again, this is a different clip of what I showed you before.
I'm just hearing those chords going by in my head. Okay, right there, I thought maybe that might be a good idea to go to the 4 chord. Back to the 1. To the 5. 5, 7.
All right, that sounds really familiar, right? He does this all the time. This sound right here in particular, all the time, right? We hear that all the time, and it's for a reason. He's trying to drill down into your head how to use these triads and how to target the next chord tone, right? And we just did it. We went from a C to an F. So we're going to get into detail on all this stuff. But before we move on, I just want to say, please, if you haven't already subscribed to Guthrie Trapp, please do that. If you're watching this and haven't, I don't even know what you're doing here. But welcome anyway, because I have a bunch of other videos that are not related to Guthrie Trapp. Yeah, we don't have to go there. In addition to that, I did want to say if you want diagrams and tab sheets, then now you could find them. I have launched a Patreon, and all the tabs and diagrams that I use, I'm just going to go ahead and throw up on there on the Patreon. The link is in the description. They are all free, so you don't have to be a paid member of the Patreon to get the information. They're going to be there for you, just like the free lessons I give here on YouTube. But if you do decide to subscribe and become a patron of mine, that is really appreciated. It is a good way of helping support this channel and helping me keep on doing what I'm doing. But let's go ahead and move on from that. I'm going to go ahead and run through this whole thing slowly with the tabs up, and then we'll break it down into manageable chunks and do a whole bunch of descriptions on what he's doing there. So let's go ahead and get at it. All right, so what he is doing is something like this. Of course, he added embellishments and he did it like 10 times faster, but that's just the way he is. I mean, it's too quick. Let me go ahead and give it a shot, though. Whatever. In any case, let's go ahead and take a deeper look into exactly what he was doing there, and let's go ahead and go over the chords first. So the chords we're using is a basic 1-4-5 chord progression. The 1 is being the C. The 4 would be an F. This is a C-shaped F. and here is a C-shaped G. We also have the D shape, right? And then that's the same as this. Let's just do this triad. F, G, F, G, right? F, G, F, G. C and D shapes respectively. So we're starting with this C shape or A shaped C. We also have the G shaped C here, or you just hit these three. You know, that's all different inversions of that chord. So he's starting with the 1 chord, which is our C, and we're going to target the next chord, which is our D or F. So we're going from C to an F. And how are we going to get there? We are going to drive our way to that F with the major pentatonic scale for the C. So we're going to go use the diagonal pentatonic scale of that C. Hop back down to that 5th, then to the root, back to the 7th of that C, and then we're going to target the 3rd of that F, right? Here's our F. And if we look at this F this way in the C shape, we can count it out. Why is that the 3rd? Here's our 1 right here. That's an F on the 8th fret of the A string. 2, 3. That's the 3 of that F, right? So he's targeting from that C, from this C to this 3rd of this F. So it's... Okay, so now that we have that F established as the next chord, we're going to hit that triad for that F. Now from here, he wants to target a C next, right? But we still got a little bit of fun to have with this F chord. So what he's doing next is taking his pinky on the 8th fret of the B string and doing that little slide up. And this is again in that F pentatonic scale. Then he's going to kind of roll back down to that 1, which is, this is a C. We're going back to the C because these are octaves, right? C, C. So he's going and hitting that C. But instead of hitting the full C up there, I think he did this as an example. He's hitting that right up there, this C on the low E string, the 8th fret. That's a C as well. So he's going from kind of establishing, saying, hey, I'm playing a C right now. So there it is. Want to make it known, right? So from there, what is he doing? So we got... Okay, so next is our G chord, which is right here. So how are we going to get to a G next from this C? Okay, so right there we established our G chord, because if we look at it this way, that is our D-shaped G. So he's hitting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's targeting the 5th of that G. So it's root and 5th, same as this root and 5th, kind of like a power chord down there. And then what he's doing, going to that F right here, and we're going to G tune F, because this is an F. And we're going to walk our way back down to that guy right there, which is the C again. You see how all that works? He's targeting the 1 of the C. Then he's going to do a pentatonic walk down. Just like that. Not just like that. Like that. All right. That is the gist of what he's doing there and how he's using the target notes to target the next chord in the progression. But we don't want to just stop there. We want to spice things up a little bit. And what I did in the intro was kind of a little bit extra. You know, I took something like this. throwing in some double stop. It's always fun to throw in that little extra double stops. I just love that. And by doing that, it gives me more of that kind of like Jimi Hendrix tone, which is, I'm a huge fan of Jimi Hendrix. All right, so now let's just talk about those double stops real quick because I think it's very good to know. How do we get those? Again, we are in that C, and then we have this G-shaped C right here. And the beauty of this G-shaped C is that when we want to do any soloing here, it looks just like that A minor pentatonic scale, but instead of starting right here on that A, we're starting right here in the G, or actually, I'm sorry, on that C. That is the beginning and the end of the C major pentatonic scale. What that allows me to do is something along the lines of this, just barring with your index finger. To get those really cool double stops. Nothing sounds better than a good double stop, especially on a Strat. So I really do hope that was helpful to you in understanding. I know this is very similar to another lesson that I did, but the fact of the matter is a lot of the lessons that we get from Guthrie himself, he hits on the same points a lot and does a lot of the same examples. And in each of his videos, that even if he does hit the same stuff and goes over the same topics, there's always something new and interesting to learn from him. It's just a matter of slowing it down and kind of figuring out the intricacies of what he's doing and switching it up. So if you could take that and take those basic core concepts and roll through it, then you'll be set to go with a lot of the stuff that he's throwing out there. But that concludes that series based off of that particular video of Guthrie Trapp's. I'm going to be moving on to a different video of his and maybe another artist out there that gives complex kind of lessons that need breakdowns themselves. So if you have any suggestions for those, please let me know. Throw it in the comments. And hey, if you're a patron, then throw it in the Patreon comments as well. And hey, we could also do that. So I'll go ahead and leave you guys at that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Thanks. I could find it now.